Learn how to create a pansy flower with me.
So the first thing you're going to do is get some gel and divide it into 5 pieces. 2 large ones, 2 smaller ones, and 1 that is bigger than the rest. Next you're going to take the 2 large pieces and mix some pigment into them. I'm using orange, but you can choose whatever color you like. Now we can create the first flower petal. So you're going to take your tool and press down on the ball gently, with the tip of the tool always pointing in the same direction. You also don't want them to be completely flat, so allow the tool to create little ridges in the flower petal in order to give it a little bit of texture. Cure it and you should have your first petal. And just a little tip, use some cling wrap around a hard object while you're creating these so that it's easy to remove. Next, take a small bead of sculpting gel and put it on the nail where you want the center of your flower to be. You're then going to place the 2 petals next to each other with the narrow parts on the bead. The reason we're using sculpting gel to stick them down is so that we can actually angle them upwards so they're not lying completely flat and can give it that 3D effect. The next step is making the last 3 beads a different color or slightly lighter one than the first. You are then going to take the 2 smaller pieces and use the same method to create another 2 petals. You must make sure that these petals are slightly smaller than the first 2 you created. Then for that last large piece, you're going to repeat this method again, with the only difference being that you're going to create a kind of heart shape by pushing the middle of the petal inward. Take another bead of sculpting gel and put it on the center where the 2 petals meet. Then attach the 2 smaller petals horizontally facing each other and overlapping the previous ones. And again, you can use the sculpting gel to lift them up so they're not lying flat down. After curing, you're going to take one last bead of sculpting gel and attach the last flower petal you made. Now that we're done with sculpting, we can move on to painting. Get a nice yellow color and put a spot in the center of the flower. Then use white or a much lighter version of the color you used on your petals. Then use small strokes to color the inner part of the flower from the middle outwards. Then take a darker version of the color you used on your petals and paint around the center of your flower in order to give it a bit more dimension. Use some black to create a small smile shape at the top of the dot in the center of your flower. And the final step is to add some top coat. The important thing here is to make sure you get it underneath each petal of the flower since they are lifted. Another tip is to use a fine line brush to make sure the top coat doesn't flood the flower. And this is the result. Hope you had fun creating these flowers with me. If you do try to recreate them, make sure to tag me in the video so I can see your creations.